What's up, Starcraft fans? Today we're doing the tier list for Dead Heat and Dawn Vermilion. Brian, let's hear the mutation.
Donny Vermilion, the best map in the game, is where we have to gather 20 xenon crystals and return them to the stabilizer in the middle of our base. The crystals appear once lava recedes from the low ground. But we need to flee to the high ground while the lava is up. Your guys get pulled in when enemies die nearby. Enemies spawn infested and explode when they die.
Okay, so we have Twotuuuu in the call with us today. Twotuuuu, how are you?
Great, but not this mutation.
Not this mutation. How do we rank the commanders this week?
The biggest mutator, of course, is Fatal Attraction. So commanders who can deal with Fatal Attraction while going on offense will be better. Since on defense, most commanders have some form of static defense that can take care of trickles. The self-destruction plus walking infested also they have a synergy, and the Fatal Attraction makes things even worse. So basically, you're gonna keep losing units if you don't have good siege units.
Yeah, that's pretty much the same thing for me. Fatal Attraction is the big thing. I have three factors here, or two, but Fatal Attraction counts as 2 points, and you can score 1 or 2 points or 0 points depending on how well you handle Fatal Attraction. And the other one is how well you can deliver the crystals or your workers to the crystals and back, or whether you can survive the hits once you do get hit by Fatal Attraction and self-destruction. So basically, Fatal Attraction counts for 2 points, and you can get 1 point either by having an efficient worker delivery system or having an ability to survive explosions. Let's begin. Abathur, where do we have it?
Abathur has swarm hosts, which are really good. However, you need to have enough of them for them to make a meaningful impact, because the Infested are going to overwhelm him. So it's really not that good. An alternative actually is Ravagers. P1 Ravagers actually does pretty well. You can shoot the biles and then walk away before they land. And once you have enough Ravagers, they don't actually die to a few explosions. So I put Abathur in A.
I also put Abathur in A, but for slightly different reasons. I didn't consider the early game because you can just go for defense for the first 10 minutes. You can just turtle up in your base, wait for the enemies to come to you, use static defense, use toxic nests, and survive. But that also lands him in A. So that's where he pretty much ends up. Prestige-wise, you probably want the second prestige, unless you want Ravagers, in which case you want the first prestige. So probably it's second or first, depending on your strategy. Abathur goes in A tier. Alarak, for me, does not have great zoning ability. He can technically go Ascendance, but Ascendance, if they get pulled in, they're pretty much dead. Especially when they only have fewer than 4 stacks of power overwhelming. So I gave him 1 point on being able to zone out the enemies from Fatal Attractioning him. Also, Alarak can kind of survive, so there are some points for that. That's why, for me, he ends up in C.
So for me, defense for most commanders not a problem. For Alarak, it's a lot less just because he can overcharge. A bad thing about overcharge is that you don't control which enemies get hit. So if you're in the way, everything's just gonna get pulled and you can't control. And if you get pulled even once, your whole army is going to die, because Alarak will eat his entire army, including your mothership if you have one. Mothership also attacks on its own, so mothership is actually not good to use here. So I don't think you should use P3 for this one. You can use a force field wall to block your dudes from getting pulled, but that's really advanced tactics. And if you're going up a ramp, you don't actually have vision. It's hard to get vision, so you need to siege a war prism as well. Your best bet is probably sieging a war prism and overcharging and just having the army pick up whatever's left. So, which is tricky to use. So I put him in C.
All right. Both of us put him in C. Prestige-wise, you probably don't want the third one because the mothership will just, as you said, automatically fire without your consent and will just pull you in. So Prestige Maybe
I would use
first.
0.
No prestige?
P0.
That also works.
Because you want the mothership to teleport sometimes.
Okay, that makes sense. I'm also thinking
P2 can
maybe.
also work if you're just covering one side.
Yeah, that'll also work. Okay, so let's do that. Alarak ends up in C tier. Arcturus, where do we have him?
He has bunkers, and if you arm enough troopers, no one gets close, so you don't even have to worry about the self-destruction explosions. He can bombard the map from a safe distance, and then all the and it's not alien incubation, so the walking infested are really slow. So you just kind of ESO the entire map, including like where the escorts are, which they stand still. If there are air units, you just gas them, or you can drop a bunker after the ground units are gone, and then you can finish off what's there. And then you can also pick up crystals easily. So I put him
Yes.
in S.
I also put him in S, except I got bored of Earth Splitters, so I just went Inhumane. That also works just fine. S tier for Arcturus. Prestige wise, you want the third one, right?
Third one. First one is okay
First
too.
one is okay. Okay, Arcturus goes in S tier. Artanis for me is C tier. He has somewhat of a worker protection system with Garden Shell, or if you go over the third prestige, you can kind of mitigate the damage by spamming Archon dudes, but it's only limited to your energy regen, which I think energy regen for Spear of Odin is right about one set Archon dudes per 3 minutes. So you're pretty much going to be stuck on defense and just using the Archon dudes to kind of clear the area where the easy crystals are to get. And once you clear enough enemies, you can maybe sneak a probe through. But that's not fantastic. So you can do it, but it's going to be C tier for me.
Uh, he's not good for this one. So if you're going for Guardian Shell, I would use P1 so you can storm, and you can probably make 2 Templar storm turn into Archon while they're in their Guardian Shell form, so you can storm like once more. Uh, if you can storm more than once with each one, that would be even better. But yeah, his army's expensive and it keeps dying, so his army's pretty much useless. If you use P3, you can clear more stuff. You can siege observers and then drop Unbound Fanatics on the escorts plus attack waves. So that's the only thing he has going for him. If you want, you can make Tempest and just help clean up the enemies in the base, or help destroy bases, but that's a little bit later because you need to expand first. I put him in C as well.
Okay, unanimous C tier so far. Prestige wise, like you said, you can go for first prestige or third prestige depending on what strategy you prefer to go for. Either should be C tier. Dehaka, where do we have him?
Dehaka, pack leaders aren't affected by Fatal Attraction, I believe, so that's free. So you just walk up ramps easily. Then you have creeper hosts, which shoot everything from a distance and don't care if they die. So that's S.
Yeah, I put him in A tier because in the early game, the Slappy Boy will be kind of be annoyed. Also, I did play with Neometal. I think he wasn't. Oh, I have to check the replay, but I think the Crown was getting pulled in. So I'm not sure if the fatal attraction or the Pachyder thing being immune to the fatal attraction still works. But I'm okay with S. I just wasn't fully sold on S because I have a lot of other guys in S. But if you say so, I mean, not strong against it. So let's put him in S. Second prestige will probably do the job, so you can always have a pack leader available whenever you need it. So there you go. Phoenix for me, he's okay when you send Kyle Dallas on one side, or maybe another champion to another side, so you can always have a means of attacking. So your all 6 of your champions won't get pulled in whenever one of them kills anything. That being said, I'm a bit iffy about fighting air here because you don't have a lot of fantastic options. You're fine against air, but once your stuff get pulled in, I am expecting chain reaction of pain. But, not terrible. You can still stasis stuff if you're in trouble. using the Arbiter suit, you can still eventually wear them down. You can have defense with cannons at home, just receive the enemy forces and just endure the annoyance of having your stuff getting pulled in all the time. So that's kind of B for me. What do you think?
So, yeah, against ground, there's no problem. You don't actually need a lot of champions. Would actually not get every champion just so that you can get more Caldalis, because Caldalis is enough to take care of the ground. You just get more of his shells. The real problem is air. So if light air where there's like 1 or 2 scouts, it's not a problem. But when there's heavy air, like you have 5 carriers or something, that's gonna be a problem. So that's the only reason why he's not higher. So I put him in B as well.
I like this. We're unanimous in pretty much everything so far. So prestige wise, I think second one still works because
Second one's
do still
better.
want
You don't want
Splash.
your army to fight together.
Yeah. You still want Tychus Light. Han and Horner, where do we have him?
Han and Horner, they don't have static defense, so that's already bad. What you can do is make a wall of depots and then put Widow Mines behind them so they don't actually get pulled, but they're gonna act as static defense in some way. For offense, if the enemy is ground, you can strike fighter. If the enemy is not ground, you're screwed. So it's not really reliable. Strike fighters are good because the fire will burn the walking infested as well as the units, but only if they like die in one shot. I used P3 for this one just because I went for the long game to get enough platforms. But if the enemy is not ground, if they even have a few air units, it's gonna be quite troublesome. So I put them in C.
I have Han and Horner in B tier because while I do understand that air strikers are strong, I think having better mag mines with the first prestige is even better. My mentality here is I would rather stay at home and defend with mag mines and widow mines and turrets against air, and on offense I'll just kind of destroy the enemies I have to. Like for example, the ones guarding the low ground crystals, and then airstrike everything else using the first prestige wherever I can. I think that's good enough for B because the widow mines will not get pulled when they're burrowed. I don't think. Similar
They
to
do.
NEC. They do? Wait, they do get pulled
They
in
do.
when they're burrowed?
That's why. Yeah, that's why I said you put them behind supply depots so they don't get pulled. They do get pulled.
I didn't
It's
know that.
weird.
That's so dumb. We need Tangarcraft to fix this right away. They're burrowed.
Just
so
like impalers get pulled too.
how do subterranean units get pulled? Do lurkers get pulled?
Not Kerrigan's lurkers. And I'm not sure about Stetmann's lurkers, but I know Kerrigan's don't get pulled.
That's dumb. Like when something is burrowed, like lurkers, impalers, and widow mice, they should not get pulled. I mean, if you think about it logically, burrowing has a deeper root in the ground than sieging. Like, how come a liberator does not get pulled, but a widow mine does? It's literally airborne. If anything should get pulled, it's the liberator. I don't understand Blizzard logic. Anyway, if widow mines get pulled, it's gonna be really annoying. But they still only need to shoot once, and that's it. Like, even if they do get pulled, they just need to shoot once, and that's pretty much their shot. So I don't think it changes much. You still want mag mines for air. You still want turrets. You still want widow mines. So I think there's still B, but now I'm less opposed to C than before because of the widow mines getting pulled by fatal attraction. So C is okay for me. I personally still would rather have them in B, but not strongly opposed to C. Prestige wise, I still think first one's
One is
better,
fine.
right? Okay, so you can still
Yeah,
use 3,
one
but
is
1 is
fine.
fine. Karax, S tier, like siege up observers, Solar Lance, Purifier Beam, defense, win. Oh, also Unity Barrier in case you do get pulled in. Well, what do you think?
Yep, he has everything. So he has Unity Bear, yeah, everything you have already mentioned, and he doesn't really need to go out, except with observers.
He's a work from home
So-
kind of guy.
Yeah, and then your workers just kind of go take the paths that the infested aren't at and grab crystals.
Pretty much.
So yeah, S.
S tier. Kerrigan, what do we have him?
See, Kerrigan. The only thing she has that's really good is two things. One is Omega Worms, so the workers don't have to walk to the crystals; they can just be there. That's one. Two is Immobilization Wave. That can clear out the walking infested plus the enemies. But that's pretty much it. I don't think anything else is going for her. Against something like light ground, like Zerglings or Marines, you can actually slide through them, but it's kind of tricky, and you have to slide back quickly or else you get blown up. Against any kind of air, it's going to be even worse. Yeah, I put her in C.
Actually, I've had Kerrigan in A. I don't think the air is that big of an issue when you can just defend at home with Spore Crawlers, and I would use the third Prestige here for Kerrigan. You can use Kinetic Blast, you can use Crushing Grip to kind of keep the enemies in place and just have Spore Crawlers shooting at them from home on defense. On offense, you really just need to use your Immobilization Wave to clear out enemies and then have Lurkers to deal with the rest. And then you can also use just Omega Worms to transport your workers across to get the crystals right away. Also, Omega Worms, speaking of, you can also use them for stalling in case you need more time to get Immobilization Wave ready again. I think it's not that bad. I think it's A. I think she should be A.
I don't think her Kinetic Blast is longer than Fatal Attraction. So she has, if she's by herself, she's gonna get focus fired, because when you're stuck in Fatal Attraction, they will still attack. They can still attack you, so you can snipe like two things, but you're gonna get pulled, and then everything's gonna focus you. Especially if their units are long range units, they will all shoot at you, and you can't run because you're gonna be in the middle of their army, and you can't pop a worm to get out.
Well, Fatal Attraction.
If you try to Crushing Grip.
Fatal Attraction is only a major issue if you get chain Fatal Attraction. With Kerrigan out there alone, she only gets pulled in once, and then after that, she can just pop a worm, run away. So I understand the issue is you can't really continuously do that because enemies are still coming. So yeah, you can pop a worm, get in while she's being attacked, and then pop her out again, use Kinetic Blast again, then hide again. I think you kind of chain that, but it doesn't really, against air, it doesn't really sound as strong. So maybe B instead. I don't think she's on the same tier as Artanis, Alarak, and Hot and Horner, because Immobilization Wave alone puts her a tier above those three. I think B is fine for Kerrigan.
She doesn't have an army, so that's basically
Lurkers?
completely relying on hero, and her hero's not even great. So if you use P3, you can't slide out. So with the other three prestiges, you can slide away from the Fatal Attraction. You can jump on an enemy and then slide. But then if you're P0, you can't fight air. So you're not going to be very bad against heavy air. So it's like, if you pick P0, you're going to be better against air, but you can't get out. So depends on which one.
But I don't think
you
it's
want. I
C
think
tier bad.
B is okay.
Right?
I guess.
Okay. Maybe not A, but definitely I don't think C, because the guys in C are pretty much at the mercy of. B is where I put Fenix because he has air issues. So if that's Kerrigan's issue, then I think she belongs in B rather than C. Right?
Kerrigan is more than air issues. So air issues, it's just because you're using one unit. You can't use you can have lurkers at home to kind of help. That's about it. That's still not the air, doesn't solve the air issue either.
That's true.
You can have lurkers, but that doesn't solve the air issue. So still gonna be rough regardless. I guess if you are in a forward position, you can make spore crawlers and put lurkers behind them, but it's not great. I think B is okay, I guess. With Omega's helping out and stuff, it's still okay. Her only usable units are lurkers, though.
It's true. her only usable is her lurkers. Everything else is pain. I guess yeah, we can kind of settle on B. There we go. Prestige wise, you're saying no prestige is better?
Depends what you want. So if you want like a lot better against ground but sucks against air, then use 0. If you want better against ground and not so good at surviving, but a lot better at air, then you pick 3.
All right, let's go with that. Kerrigan B tier. Nova is S because she just walks in, sabotage drone. Sometimes she has a nuke, but she can also have airstrikes. And to clean up the rest, you have liberators. And if you get in trouble, airlift. That's S for me.
Yeah. On offense, she doesn't even need anything because you just P3 and then you sabotage drone. If there are like 3 scouts, you just wait till the walk infested go away. Or later, you have enough time to like just snipe. And if there are too many air units, you just drop an airstrike instead. And you have tanks, liberators, and like railgun turrets to defend at home. The walking infested. So S.
Pretty much S. Third prestige, right?
Yes.
You can also do. You can technically still win with the second prestige if you like airlifting, but that will not be S. Maybe that's A. But if you want S, you want the super cloak person. Raynor, where do we have him?
Raynor, the only units he can really use are tanks and bunkers. So Bile's gonna die. Air units will die. So tanks are very bad at pushing, and if the enemy has air units, you are not pushing anything. So he is good at his defense. So if he's just defending, then sure, he's okay. But on offense, like Hyperion attacks on its own, so it's gonna keep getting pulled. And other air units will they're like one use. So he's really doing close to nothing on offense. So I put him in C.
I had Raynor in B because his static defense is very strong. Also, with the siege tank upgrade, you can siege and unsiege, and you can still scan to get high ground vision, but the air problem persists. That is the one thing I can't really get around. I had him originally in B, but I don't think he's the same tier as Kerrigan and Fenix because they both of them at least have something against air. Rainer's pretty much one use things and bunkers.
He also can't push. So like even against an all ground comp, his pushing power is very low. Like sieging, unsieging tanks, he doesn't have a herc, so it's really hard to push.
Are we sure Hercules? I know what the discussion later is going to be, but like the Herc, yeah, okay. Let's not get into that for now. But I think the fast siege unsiege will really help Raynor here, in comparison to the other tank guy, because you can very quickly siege when you see enemies approaching, and then only unsiege also very quickly once everything's clear. So that will kind of help you leapfrog your tanks forward. That being said, I'm not strongly opposed to C. For me, he's still B, but not strongly opposed to C, just because of the air problems and the pushing problems you mentioned. So that's 2 issues.
B is like carry-ish, but if you can't even push, you're not carrying anything. You're just defending.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I do think he can kind of tank crawl, so he can kind of push slowly. But if it's not fast enough for you, then that will not be B. For me, it's B. But I guess if you're not with any reliable sort of help, you're gonna be pretty much on your own, and on your own is not very great for pushing. Yeah, like I said, I'm not strongly opposed to C. I still personally think he's B, but not strongly opposed to C. So that's where we have him. Prestige wise. Second one? So you can at least have the stim?
0.
No prestige. Okay. No prestige.
You can't expand. You can't expand fast enough to get the extra gas to get enough tanks. You don't need the speed shots.
That makes sense. Okay.
Extra gas. You can use P2, but not needed.
What about the first prestige? Just go fire blast and just face tank the shots.
Uh, no,
Have you tried it?
no, it's not cost effective.
We don't know that. We've never tried it. Anyway, if anyone has done first prestige here without significant help, maybe some help but not significant help, let us know. Stet Boy is S because even though Gary will get pulled in the early game, he can survive the explosions and can just teleport back. In the later game, he has Infestors and Zerglings, so he doesn't really care how much he sends out. He will eventually overwhelm everything. So S.
I put him in A because he attacks by himself and he gets himself in bad situations a lot. So you try to escape and you can't escape because he keeps attacking. And he one-shot kills a lot of things, especially the infested. So he's going to keep getting himself pulled into deeper and deeper into places where he shouldn't be. So that's the only reason why I don't have him S. He is very strong. He can survive a lot of things, but when you're pulled, you might like some of their Stellalites might be deactivated and you're just out of your range. A lot of times when you get pulled, you're gonna get pulled out of a Stellalite zone. So yeah.
Okay, but you're assuming. Go ahead.
No, and using infestors, they're okay, but at the same time, like after they kill one thing, they just stop attacking. So you have to keep commanding them over and over to make sure they're actually doing something.
When they're in the fight already, they will keep shooting because field attraction exists. So they will get pulled into fights whether they like it or not, and you can always replenish the roaches and ravagers because you can just use the tentacle thing to keep your infestors energized. You can just keep throwing wave after wave of roach ravager. I see no issues with roach ravager on this. Also, your perspective seems to heavily make use of Super Gary in the late game. My perspective is just keep Garrett home after like the first 10 minutes to just overcharge the stud to keep the infestors fully energized, fully powered up, and allow them to keep sending roaches and ravagers at a consistently high pace. Also, your experimentals will be Zerglings, which are also pretty okay for offense. I really don't see any issue with Roach's Ravagers this game because yeah, like I said, they will stop attacking when they get pulled in. At the same time, they get pulled into attacking range of whatever they're shooting at, and Ravagers still have those bile things. So even when they do get pulled in, they will still shoot. Shoot and then get pulled in. So they'll still shoot again. I still see no issue with it.
They don't deal AoE, so if you don't use Gary, you're gonna be very slow at clearing things. And then you're gonna
yeah.
If you're just sending like the Ravagers and the Roaches, they're gonna get blown up and they're not gonna attack every time something dies, and they don't deal AoE, so they're stuck for a long time. So unless you use Gary to help, you're not going to be able to like. Especially like in the top right, you have to push up that ramp. Sometimes a base there, and then there are crystals on the low ground. So if you can't clear that fast enough, you're not getting those crystals.
You don't have to. You don't have to get those crystals right away. They will spawn later. I mean, Dawn Vermilion is pretty
low ground.
Yeah, I know. Even if they do, even if you don't catch it, you can also just keep sending them. And if you don't catch all of them, you can just wait for the next set to spawn. It will still
means they will be in another area that you haven't cleared, and then the same thing happens.
Usually they spawn in the same few areas. The only new spot they spawn in is like the west area of the bonus, but pretty much every other time they spawn in areas either on the low ground or areas you've cleared before. Or
if you miss a crystal on the low ground, it spawns on the high ground next time. One extra one. Not 3.
Yeah, but it's still, it's still pushable. I mean, with infestors, you only get more and more powerful over time because you can just keep throwing out in Roach Ravager from the ones you already have and from over time, you'll get more gas, which means more infestors.
Yeah, this problem still exists. They get stronger, and then they're gonna produce a lot more walking infested, and your guys aren't gonna push through because they all stop attacking. So they're gonna body block each other at some point. So unless Gary helps, it's not. It's gonna be very hard to clear. And if Gary helps, you have to know how to shoot the E-Gorb, or else you'll get pulled in. So it's like either way, it's gonna be. He's still good. It's just you have to be mindful of these things.
I don't know. For me, it's not an issue, but
So
if it's not
I also
unanimous,
see how I don't see how you always say like Manx is hard because you have to make ESOs, but the infestor thing is the same thing. So you have to keep tentacling everything and then throw them out.
I do agree. I do agree that the consistently using tentacles takes away attention span, and you can't control Gary during that time. I do recognize that. At the same time, the way I play in Mass Infestors is I don't really have an issue using tentacles because not unlike making Earth Splitters when you can misclick mass producing the Earth Splitters when the next Earth Splitter is behind an earlier Earth Splitter, but that's a different issue. I'm just saying that I do recognize the issue, but at the same time, it's kind of easier to not have to retarget things consistently. But just to move this discussion along, if it's not gonna be if it's not gonna be unanimous, it's not gonna be S tier either way. So like, no matter what I say, it's gonna be A tier. So let's just put him in A tier. Prestige wise, you still want the second one, so you can have a powerful early
Still
game.
the second.
Not second.
Still the second one.
Still the second one. Okay. So Stet Boy still ends up in A tier. Stukov, where do we have him?
Stukov is very good against ground because you can siege and overseer, and then you spot for your tanks, and your tanks will kill all ground units. The problem is air because you have nothing good against air. If you use Diamondbacks, they're gonna get pulled. So you pull the enemies down, and then your tanks will kill them, and your Diamondbacks will die. So it's like if you're fighting air, every time you fight, you're gonna lose some units. So that's the only problem. If you use Liberators, I guess you could charge in, but the Liberators, I don't know what really happens if they get pulled a lot, but it's not gonna be fun. They'll probably die as well.
Yes.
Damage reduction will be helpful, but I
Not
think
enough.
they might die as well. So I put Stukov in B. Air problem.
I think you can eventually overpower them with bunkers. The only issue is getting to enough bunkers that you can just overpower them. I know the lava is a thing,
P3?
but yeah, I know the lava is a thing, but
no, don't use P3.
Why? Why?
P3 is the same problem as the infestors. You're gonna keep getting pulled, and then P3 is terrible because the explosions will blow them up. So you're not gonna get a critical mass. You're
Not
gonna
the
lose a
bunkers,
lot
just the
to
infestors.
explosions.
Sorry, not the bunkers, just the infested, right?
The infested from bunkers, it's gonna be the same problem as the infestor, the Stetmann infestors. They're
No,
gonna
it's
body
not.
block. They're actually you
can
want
just-
tanks.
They're
Like
not gonna
mass
body
tanks.
block because you can just re-rally the Psy-emitter. It's one click. You don't even have to have two. It's one click.
What are you talking about? They body block each other when they're fighting.
No, okay. So you're saying that they body block each other when they're fighting, but when they get pulled in, they all get into range.
And then they die to explosions, and they're even less. They have less HP than the Roach Ravager, so they're even worse.
When you get enough bunkers, the infested will get pulled in, but they won't get squished into a tiny ball like air units. They'll as you said body block each other, but they also body block each other from getting into the self-destruction range.
What? They're killing the
They'll body block each other from
melee
getting to the same
civilians.
Yeah.
They get pulled in and then when the infested die, a lot of them will get hit.
Yeah, so you send more. The bunkers
So you send
will,
more.
Yeah. The bunkers will keep producing them. I mean, eh, it's still gonna be B, by the way. I'm not saying that he'll be like S tier or something. I'm just saying that I think you'll get the same results, or
It's
pretty
like
much.
you have a choice to use a siege unit, and then I guess what you can do with P1 is make barracks and then send, because P1 floats tons of minerals. So you can make barracks and send a bunch of Marines from the barracks at the air units. That's another option, since they only cost minerals, not gas. So you lose you lose units, but you're not losing gas units. So that is an option.
You know, turrets don't get pulled in, right?
Yeah, but you have to. Why you're always on defense? It's offense that matters.
You can siege and unsiege turrets, and then you can kind of push them, kind of like spore crawlers.
Kind of.
Right?
Not until the creep spreads far enough, though.
That's true. That's true.
Earlier on.
That's true. Oh well. So we put him in B, right?
I put him in B.
All right. So that's both of us. I'm just trying to see if third prestige is just as viable. Oh well. So first prestige, right?
Yes.
All right. Swann. So he has siege tanks. This is what I was thinking earlier. I know that we can teleport the siege tanks using the Hercules, but once they start shooting, the Hercules itself will get pulled in, and it will die to the explosions. It only has one charge of teleport, so that's my primary concern. You can still push with tanks, but probably not so aggressively. You still want to rely on your laser drill to do the bulk of the work, and then of course have defense. But that being said, I think he's still like S, because like you don't need to push that frequently. You just need to push enough to open up space to get the crystal. You don't need to destroy the entire base. In fact, how many bases do you really destroy? On the, I think, fourth set of crystals, you
really need 2, maybe 3 bases.
Yeah. That's why I was saying earlier that Stetmann should be S, because you don't need to push it to a lot of bases. But with
But then
siege tanks,
at some point you're not pushing bases, you're just pushing past a wave. And some waves are pretty big.
Yeah, that's the difference with siege tanks. They can still shoot. My only concern is you won't be able to move them, because the Hercules that you're using will get pulled in and will die. So you'll still have to manually siege and unsiege them. Which is why I was saying that Raynor at least has faster siege and unsiege. So that was what I was talking about earlier. Anyway, the culmination of both of those discussions with Swann, I don't think we can push with Hercules and siege tanks alone. You'll need a floating factory for your laser drill to still keep dealing damage, and you'll want static defense at home, so that any trickle that comes in will get instantly destroyed. But I still think he's still S tier, because the laser drill, the factories don't get pulled in, the siege tanks don't get pulled in. They'll still shoot. You can still kind of push with them and use the factories for vision and destroy any air units with your laser drill. What do you think?
I mentioned Hercules earlier, not because you should use tanks. For Swann, don't use tanks. You just make factories. You should not push with tanks. Your tanks, if you use them, will stay at home. So you only push with factories, and then you just defend at home, and laser drill kills everything. I did this yesterday, 100% drill against Reaver Disruptor, and it was okay.
It was okay.
So, what I did was I wait till the lava's gonna rise, and I teleport a Herc, and I just steal the crystal. Then the enemies will come to my base and die to the laser while they're walking to my base.
So you're saying the Hercules is not for siege tank, it's for SCVs?
No. I mentioned Hercules just so that it's like you can transport them faster, not to use. Swann should not use tanks for this one. Like you don't need tanks for this one.
What? Anyway,
You can use tanks for the splash against the walking infested at home for defense, but
you don't
you
need.
don't need
Yeah, you don't
tanks for
need it if you
offense.
have. Oh wait, for the infested, you don't even need tanks if you're just dealing with infested because you have flaming betties. But you said that you'll use Hercules to transport SCVs. Does that mean you'll try to get the crystals before the escort even gets there?
No, no, no. When the lava's about to go up and they're about to leave.
Oh, okay, okay. I was confused about the timing. So you'll wait for Donnie to say that the lava is rising, and that's your window to send the Hercules in and drop the SCV, and then kind
Yeah.
of move the crystal at least a more accessible location, or just not to get disappeared by the lava. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So where does that land him?
Uh, against his usual nemesis Immortals, he's still fine. So S is
There we go.
reasonable.
We end up in the same tier. Oh my Donnie. Tychus, where do we have him?
Tychus, he gets pulled a lot, but he has medevacs, that's one. Two, serious turrets don't get pulled, and they're very strong. Three, if you're fighting ground, Blaze burns everything. So, S.
I actually had him in A, but I forgot the blaze thing. The blaze thing, it might put it over me. I had him in A still because like you will still have powerful outlaws with Tychus. They will get exploded a lot, but they can tank it. I initially just didn't have him to S because at a certain extent the explosion will just be too much. You'll run out of medevac charges. But with the blaze thing, that sounds very compelling, especially because walking infested makes blaze stronger because they provide more firewood, so to speak, for his fire thing. That sounds like a very compelling argument for S to me. So that's why he goes in S. Sorry?
For Sirius, you can throw your turrets in a line so that when you're fighting, Sirius gets pulled to the turret and not past the turret.
Yeah, you can make a
So he
wall of
doesn't.
turrets so you can prevent yourself from getting pulled in further. That's something I didn't think of mentioning, but I definitely would do that. Anyway, so Tychus S, second prestige still. Yeah, I think second prestige still. Let's move on. Vorazun, C tier. She has one thing going for her. That is time stop stealing the crystals when the lava is about to go up. Or you can try before the escort gets there. But that's pretty much it. C tier.
Time stop, you don't have to use it just to steal crystals, but if you can, since there are no environmental mutators, you put a forward nexus at like top right base maybe, and then if your shadow guards die, they respawn closer, and uh, trickles can go to your base. Your cannons will do just fine, and you have shadow guards. If you can control them, like Shadow Fury and then blink away, you can kill a few things without getting pulled. For air, you can do what I did and use Star Archons and
Yeah.
just steal the air units. If you steal them, they don't produce Fatal Attraction, so you can take them and then run away.
But
Remember that if your units are being pulled, they cannot be recalled. The units that are being pulled are not recalled when, yeah, they're like not part of. You're not targeting them, but they're not affected by the recall. With that said, Vorazun will lose a lot of units if you don't know what you're doing. So it's even if you know what you're doing, still not that good. So C.
okay. She has one prestige, the third one. And down to C she goes. Oh, sorry. C. Zagara, where do we have him?
Zagara, this one you should use P1 and then you send waves. So don't F2. You send waves of Baneling Scourge at the enemy, hopefully killing most of them. And then whatever is left over, you can leave. You can run a second wave into them, or you can let your static defense at home. So just make a bunch of spores, spine spores, maybe a few ball launchers to get AoE, but you don't need that many. For attack waves, you can let them come to you, so you save money if you made bio launchers. I put Zagara in A.
I also have an A. Uh, do you want to remake your Bailing Nest in the expansion, or do you just want to keep rallying them into your expansion for the main?
Neither. Well, if you should not rally them to the expansion because they'll just run into lava over and over.
Yeah.
So if you want to F2 control your army, you should destroy it and remake it later. Remake it in the center.
Yeah, in the expansion. So where do you send the waves from? Your main or your expansion?
My my units, I
Yeah.
don't F2. So you just send them from your expansion, right?
So
Wherever.
so you let the thing spawn in your main, the free stuff spawn in your main, and then you when the lava is down, you manually send them to the expansion. Since you never F2,
Yes.
and you never rally your Bailing Nest, everything just stays
I, I'm
there.
I'm pretty sure I destroyed it and rebuilt it.
Yeah,
Because it's
that's what I was thinking. I'd rather have I'd rather not have to worry about the Bailings rallying and have a lot of unused Bailings in my main.
I do that with Stetmann too. I destroy the spawning pool and I rebuild it in the middle so that
I should do
the
that.
lings spawn in the middle.
I should do that too. Anyway, so Zagara, I also have her in A tier. Except I was thinking bio launchers, but for some of those easier to reach spots anyway. Same thing. It's still A tier. Prestige, first one. I was thinking the third one
First
might
one.
also work, but so yeah.
The third one I found out is bad. I tried it. It's
Really?
just you get pulled. Like when you Baneling Barrage, you pull yourself in and it stops the barrage actually.
So you'd rather just not
Because the thing,
really it stops the barrage. That's annoying. Okay.
like instead of sending 6 Banelings, you might send like 4, and then it gets because once the first thing dies, she stops.
That makes sense. But, yeah, first one still definitely works for a less problematic, less stressful experience overall. A tier. Zeratul, Cadence good. Demote dude good. Uh I guess you can still use Telebrust Legion. Yeah, they're good. Zeratul himself good. Monlet's good. S tier.
I would just say not spend the money on the Legion. Just make no Legions. If anything, get the Surdeth Legion so that you can steal big units later, and
Yeah.
they won't produce things.
Yeah.
You're not gonna. You don't really need a Legion to stop the early game infested. So yeah, and Zeratul can take a few hits. You
Yeah.
can also trap the artifact on this map. So you trap
Yes.
the artifact, and then you get mass cannons and kill everything. So S.
S. Do you want the third prestige here, or do you just want the second one? So your cancer just gets stronger over
Never third
time.
prestige.
Never third.
Third prestige is only if you want to do no mining. That's it.
Yeah. So always second prestige, so that your Canis will get stronger over time. So
And you get the extra barrier for the shield cannons.
yeah, and you can have more uses of your artifact cage. If you go for the second, if you go for third prestige, you can only like use it once. But yeah, second prestige. Zeratul S tier. Do we have a double S?
Not really. It's
Who's top of S?
um Zeratul.
Zeratul? And then Nova or Karax or Arcturus?
Karax.
Yeah. Nova or Arcturus?
Nova is because ESOs miss spots sometimes,
and
so
they do
it's not
hit air.
as reliable.
Then again, oh wait, the airstrike hits air.
I would put Dehaka over both of them
Dehaka? Okay.
because his creeper hosts hit everything.
Okay. And then
Tychus also over everything, and then Swann over these two. So Swann over these two.
I like Nova
Huh.
actually because the airstrike is really good, but
Meng's
say
at the
so.
bottom. So Nova over Mengsk.
Who's top of A?
Stetmann.
That makes sense. I have an
Then
S.
Zagara.
Then Abathur. Okay. Who's top of B?
Stukov. Then Fenix Kerrigan.
Okay. Who's top of C?
Raynor.
Yeah, Raynor. I had Raynor in
His
B.
defense at least is solid.
Yes.
The others have nothing solid going on.
They're all liquids and gases. Han and Horner next?
Han and
They still
Horner,
have
because they can
airstrikers.
strike from afar.
Yeah. So my two B tiers at least have top of C status. Then Alarak?
Alarak, Artanis, Vorazun.
Alright.
I think, yeah.
Yeah, that's not too
Yes.
far from my list. Some guys just got shifted around, but they're still kind of in that ranking. Anyway, so that's going to be this week's tier list. Pretty easy week this week. I know there are like C tiers, but you can still probably do well with the C tiers in a duo. Even with like a mediocre ally or any sort of help, we'll still get the job done for you. So guys, watch Twotuuu's channel. I will link it down below. We'll see you guys next time.